careful of those island boys. Little girl, use your head. They will tear you up like a paper toy. Oh, no, no, no. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, no, no, no.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Rumbi.
Welcome to It's Layered.
We're in a long-distance friendship that started over 20 years ago when we were in high school.
We'll be talking about all things life, love, family, anything and everything else under the sun.
Delve deeper with us because in life, you know, Rine, my layers.
Oh, no, no, no. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, no, no, no.
Welcome, everyone. Today, we have such a special episode for you all. I'm sure by now you've heard of the amazing audio drama, Private Affairs, and we've got some of the cast with us today, and of course the creator with us today, and we're just going to be delving deeper into what we're calling Layered Affairs, the cast and crew of Private Affairs. Yes. Welcome, guys.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
So we've got the creator, the writer, the director, the editor, the producer, Christine Kix Mwaturura. Hi, Kix. How are you going?
Hey ladies, what's up?
Welcome.
I know, we're so excited to have you.
This is so exciting. I'm really curious to hear what everyone else will say as we get into these topics. So yeah,
she's like, today I'm not your boss. Today I'm listening.
Yeah.
Also got Ronn Kurtz, who plays the character of Luke. How you going, Ron?
Hey, how are we doing? No, good. It's wonderful to see such beautiful faces. Yeah.
Speaking of beautiful faces, we've got Tsungirai Wachenuka, who plays the character of Mati. How you going?
I'm so good. This is such a cool experience. I feel like I listen to podcasts all day, every day. So I'm like, what? I get to be on. This is exciting.
Well, you're a voice actor, so you're probably used to hearing your own voice. But when we first heard our voices on podcasts, we were like, what the hell? I don't sound like that.
I don't think you can ever get used to it. So when I had to listen back to the podcast, I had to pep talk myself to not judge myself, because I feel like everyone on this podcast has such a sultry, sexy, silky voice.
But
and
your
when
voice
you
is
listen to
sexy. I listened. I'm like, come on, let's go. Let's go.
It's no V. It's
Flatter
no Ron.
It's okay.
No, but everyone was so cool to listen to. I think, yeah, it was. I got out of my head and just focused on the show as a whole, which is nice.
Yeah, we're going to get into that for sure. And last but not least, we got Garikai Jani, who plays the dual character of Tonde and also PJ. Welcome.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Thank you for having me. It's going to be interesting. I'm quite interested to hear from the people who've been consuming this content, because, as you know, it's under season 2. So I'm actually very interested to hear how those who've listened to season 1 and where your allegiances are, and I'm actually very excited to hear this. And then my boy PJ, this is going to be good. I'm quite interested to hear from the consumers. This is great.
Yeah, we're definitely going to delve deeper on it. If you don't know, Private Affairs is an award-winning romantic dramedy that was written by Christine, as we just said. She describes it herself as TV for your ears. Kix, can you please summarize what you think this audio drama is all about?
For people who are living under rocks, who have
who have not
somehow
listened.
Discovered it already.
Yeah, so Private Affairs follows the story. Well, at least it starts out following V, who is a recent transplant to Melbourne, Australia, and she meets a very charming and dashing, sexy Aussie doctor, and they begin their relationship. It's an intercultural, interracial relationship, and she's helped along on that journey by her newly married cousin Mati, and who's married to Tonde, as well as her smooth-talking BFF Taf, who is problematic but very likable as well. So yeah, basically in a nutshell, it's about dating and relationships across cultures.
And you know, if I can ask, what inspired you to do this drama, this dramedy, romantic dramedy as a podcast? Like your thought process and what led to that?
Yeah, so the story started out as a blog. So it started out as a factual, like memoir blog. And my sister was the one who was like, okay, why don't you turn it into a podcast? Because by then I was obsessed with podcasts. I really wanted to make another podcast because my sister and I were doing a podcast together, but we wrapped that up, but I wanted to continue on making stuff. So she gave me the idea of adapting the blog into a podcast. So there was one story from the blog that was really, that just like never left me, you know? Like, sometimes you have those ideas that just kind of stick with you. No matter what you do, it just kind of sticks with you. So yeah, so that's kind of like where it came from initially, and it continued to evolve. So it started off as factual memoir, and then it eventually evolved into a full cast audio drama.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, shout out to your sister, though, for inspiring you to turn it into a podcast. Shout out to the people in your circle. You know what I mean? Like, you always need the people around you to encourage you sometimes to push forward when you are like, oh, I don't know, or I'm not sure. So kudos to her.
Yeah, definitely. And I definitely was quite, resistant to the idea initially, because I was like, who wants to listen to that? Like, that's boring.
And look at you now.
Here we are.
Look at you now.
Look at us
Look at you now.
Season 2.
Yeah, 11 episodes. It's wild.
Yeah, it's great.
Ron, what do you think has been the most enlightening part of playing Luke? You've obviously played other characters before, and you've had a lot of experience as a voice actor. Yes, I Googled you. What's the most enlightening part of playing Luke?
Well, to start off, just being a part of this show. I mean, I've been acting my whole life, but voice acting, it's always kind of been in the background, and I really, really love what an actor can do with the voice. You can play so many different characters because of animation or podcasts now, and just being a part of this and seeing the evolution of Luke, even actually, let's start from the very beginning. Even from the beginning with Christine, of even being at her apartment and recording that, just from the bedroom. And then that's the level it was at, it was so green, it was so sticks and stones. And then from season 1, having such a nice fan base, so many people just latching onto this, enjoying this, obviously, because the writing is just so natural and so easy. It's such a gift for an actor to read writing that's quite real. It was very easy to read, and it looked very real, and it was very easy to, I guess, perform, especially with Rati, who's a natural, and Christine, who's so lovely and warm on set. I guess it was just so much fun from going from season 1 to season 2, being now a studio. And yeah, I just loved, I didn't necessarily, I like Luke, but I just loved the entirety of just everything, being able to perform with everyone again, because I had such a blast in season 1. And then season 2 really upped the game. We introduced Garrett and Simba and everyone else. And I guess just that, without sounding corny and cliche, I think taking it to the next level was super enjoyable, and being able to perform again.
The way it's written, it's so natural. So it feels like you are in it with you, and it's like, yeah, I can see this happening, or I know that person, or I know the feeling, or I've had those conversations, or I can imagine having those conversations. So I totally get that. Do you feel like Luke is misunderstood as a character? Because I'm sure you've gotten some level of Team Luke, Team Taf, kind of the polarizing. And we saw that play out quite a bit in season 2, because, I mean, no spoilers, something, just there was a bit of a, you could see them kind of trying to up one each other. And there is a bit of that Team Luke, Team Taf. And do you feel like Luke is misunderstood? And if so, why?
Just wait for the bank robbery scene and the paragliding scene. That gets even crazier. Right, Christine? Have you not told them? Oh, shit. I think every character is misunderstood. I think the reason why the writing is so good is because every character has so many flaws. V is so up and down, up and down. Same thing with Luke. Same thing with every character. So it really depends. Like, I like the fact that Luke is divided. Every character is divided. You know, as soon as one character is likable throughout, that's just boring. It's boring writing, you know, because each character has so many different ups and downs, and you're like, oh, Luke did this, damn. And then Luke was like, yeah, it's good. And then V did this, damn it. And then Lee, that's what creates, you know, it's like life. Yeah. You know, you can look back at yourself, you know, I'm a 58-year-old man now. No, I'm 27. And I look back at like all the shit that I did when I was 20, 21, and I'm like, I was such an idiot. Yeah. And then I look back, and then there were some things that I really liked when I was 20, 21. And that's the beauty with the writing. It's up and down, and it flows beautifully. So to answer your question, I like that Luke is, you know, I think every character is 50-50. I was listening to the podcast again today, and I was like, damn, Luke's such an idiot. And then it's like, Luke's okay. And then Mati's this, and then Mati's that. Yeah, it's a beautiful balance.
It's good that you brought up Mati, because I think she was a polarizing character this season. We thought she was bestie in season 1. And then season 2, we're like, hey, Mati, like, we felt like you really, as a character, gave us so much energy. How exciting was it for you, Tsungi, to get to know Mati, not just being a bestie like you were in season 1, but seeing more flaws and nuance to your character?
It was a really interesting process for me, because it felt like I got to know a version of myself where, because I left Zim when I was 7 and then moved to England and then moved here, I get to live a different life to maybe my cousins who are still there, or maybe my cousins who are still set in the same exact traditional ways. I feel like I live a more liberated, carefree, and you can uphold traditions and be liberated, of course, but I feel like Mati is still working under the pressures of her family, and now Tonde's family too. And I feel like there's a parallel universe where that is my life. So it was really interesting getting to live through Mati and experience the challenges that she's having as this newly married woman. I'm not at that stage in my life. So it was kind of seeing what life could be like one day in that experience. So it's so strange when you get a character like that that's going through things that you aren't going through and you haven't gone through, and having compassion and not putting your own views on it, because that's her life, that's her journey, and that's her circumstances, and she's working with what she has. And she's so strong within it too. So you learn from them too.
For sure. And I think you played her so beautifully, showing, as Ronn alluded to, the flaws in each character that Christine wrote so well, and you all embodied really well. And one of the and this is about to be a spoiler, if you have not listened to Private Affairs, you need to just pause here and go back.
And what are you doing on this episode? Please go and listen.
Please go listen. Okay, listen, because we're about to do some spoilers. But what were your thoughts as a character about Mati cheating on Tonde with Taf? And you know, I think you really just blew up in this season in terms of like, we got to see you shine through. And I remember when Insecure came out and Molly became a quote unquote problematic character and people had a lot to say. I really think that this season really spotlighted you in a different light. So to ask the question again, what were your thoughts as a character about Mati cheating on Tonde with Taf? Like,
okay.
that experience, like playing or, you know, embodying that.
Yeah. I mean, in real life, obviously, I don't condone cheating, but in her circumstances, I felt the way that I empathized with her was knowing that she's lived a very step-by-step life. School, marriage, now pursuing kids. And I feel like she has so much repressed, so much of her personality has been repressed, so much of her experience in life has been repressed. And Obviously, she hasn't pursued those interests in the most ethical way, but I feel so many women who've jumped straight into marriage and maybe had the pressure of their culture can't explore themselves. She's never explored herself sexually. She's never explored herself outside of this relationship. And it was just that boiling point, and she's caught in this vulnerable moment and done things that she isn't proud of. But it's like she's becoming a woman and potentially now a mother, but she's still got this teenage pubescent energy about her where she hasn't fully found herself.
She's ready to live. Well, she wants to explore and live a bit more than she's been allowed to or given herself permission.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
No, you're definitely right when you say that, because when you guys were in Thailand, okay, I'm saying you guys, but the characters were in Thailand. After your argument with Tonde, you were like, no, F this. We came here to party. Like, I'm not going to chase after him. I'm not going to, which really was you choosing you, is how we saw it as fans. So when you're hearing you say that, it does loop in that, that rebellious energy a bit, like it's about me now. So yeah, really good to hear you say that. Garikai, welcome. How has it been joining the cast for the second season? Did you just like slip straight in, or how did it feel for you?
The context that most people don't have is, I always believe, like, the reason I love acting so much is it allows you to have perspective and scope of, if you choose, if you believe in the arts, it helps you grow up. Speak about myself, it helps me grow as a person. So coming from Zimbabwe, as we all know, I was never supported in aspiring to be an actor. Like, everyone knew it. Like, everyone who saw me as a kid was like, bruh, you need to just chill. You know, like all those things which lived in me, or probably were so present. When I came to uni and I told my family, you know, I want to do acting, that was not what my family back home was trying to hear. It was very, no, IT, degree, like, you know, it's one of those things where you don't get support. And why I'm giving you that context is I stepped away from acting for about 3 years. And a friend of mine told me about the podcast because I was getting that itch, that creative itch. And he said, you know, Christine's got this thing called Private Affairs. I literally called Christine the night after she had closed auditions. So I actually wasn't,
BMT?
Like, I was, like, so hence why I said I'll give you proper context as in my journey to here and why this has been so special and it's been so fun. I called her, my wife was out, I was babysitting 2 kids. I'm trying to convince this lady I need an audition. Kids are crying. She's like, dude, can you organize yourself? So she then gives me a shot. She's like, you know what? Sunday, let's do the audition. She shows me 2 characters. Tonde automatically has so much, for me, I call it traumatic events, or he has so much life. He has so many flaws. He has so many challenges, complexes. Like, there's just so many layers there. I'm like, okay, that is so jumping out. And PJ is interesting. It reminds me of certain people that I knew, and I was like, I could do that, but, you know, it was Tonde that jumped out at me. Christine gave me the opportunity, and why it's been so great is, like you said before, the way she wrote it, like the way I got to read the story and got to see the development of the content is just masterful. Like, it's so easy to be part of it because the way it's written, you're not struggling so much. Like, you just have to trust the words. You just have to be present. Like, if you're present with your partner, and it's great to have Christine there present because she knows what she's trying to create. So to answer your question, it's been easy stepping into it because for me, I've had the support. Also, remember, I'm coming in season 2, so I ain't got the pressure of 1. Like, I'm just coming in, and Tonde's a bad guy anyway. So there's this perception.
Yeah.
So I can come in at whatever, you know, at whatever, and the family was great. So it's been fantastic coming back into it, finding something that has pulled me back to something I love, working with Christine and the team, and just being in an environment where it was so easy to work and it was so much fun. So it's been great. It's been amazing.
That's so dope. And kudos to you, just your story. And I think, again, this is why we do our podcast, sharing the you know, these desires we have as people. And I think people of our background, most of us here are Zimbabwean, and knowing the journey of trying to do something that's out of sort of the scope that we've grown up knowing, and so inspiring, Garikai. I really appreciate that. And even Christine's own story, you know, personal journey into becoming a creator. I think it's very interesting. Maybe we can touch on that.
Yeah. So like, okay. So spoiler. Okay. So the character V, I borrow a lot of emotions from like my real life, and I infuse that. I infuse that into the story. So yeah, it's fictional, but it's, you know, the emotions are very true, so to speak. So in season 2, we learn a lot about like how V feels about work. You know, I had a very similar situation where I was quite, you know, depressed about what I was doing with work and feeling lost in life, really. So I started writing really as a creative outlet. And that was just the beginning process, writing blog posts. And then that evolved into contributing to a magazine, Madame Noir in the US. Really liked that. But, you know, the pressure of writing weekly was just like getting to me. And I also didn't like how like writing for a magazine was sort of changing the type of content that I was writing. So I first started off writing personal essays, but then I started writing more think pieces, which was great because it became like the foundation of like the research that I was doing for season 1. But I wanted to go back to writing more personal stories. So then that's when, you know, I got into exploring more topics with my sister in a podcast format, like similar to what you guys do. Yeah. And then that evolved into radio, music curation, you know, and then finally came back to writing with this podcast and really going in with fiction, you know, the fictional aspect of it, and like really trying to build out a world and thinking to myself like, okay, what would have happened if this had happened instead of like what actually happened in life? Because honestly, my life is not that interesting. So you gotta infuse. Ron is looking at me like,
my life a movie. Turn your life into. No, I get you.
Yeah. No, for real. Like there were times like when we were recording and Ron was like, "Is this real?" I'm like, Ron, it doesn't matter if it's real. Like.
It's a biography. No, it isn't.
It's not. Exactly. Creative license. Thank you so much for sharing. I just thought those stories kind of really tied into each other, and just like the journey of constantly seeking to find yourself and explore yourself. And Garikai, I'm coming back to you.
Can I just say something, Romy, just on that, just while you're there? It's one of the things, so like I said, Christine's got to learn about me really quickly in short space, because she'll tell you this. Like I call her all the time and I'm like, dude, I need people like you to be celebrated, and you need to keep doing what you're doing. I'm like, I'm not letting you stop doing it. Like, I don't know how often I call her. She'll tell you. Like, if you look at her phone, it's so, I'll just message her randomly.
Sorry, I didn't call you back yesterday.
And you see? But,
you were busy.
But to the point of what you're talking about, like, it's so, we should, you know, celebrate it. And we should, same to you guys as well, like in terms of how much work you've put in the tenure, like the podcast, you know, congratulations, because it's not the obvious course. And there is such a beauty behind sharing and creativity and, you know, what you have to give and being that vulnerable. Because I always say vulnerability is the purest currency. You can be vulnerable and I can be vulnerable. We can have the greatest connection, or we can achieve so much or bridge so much within that space, but it takes a lot. So that's why I champion people like this, or the work you do, because it inspires. And what's life for, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And shoot your shot.
Please gonna start sliding into DMs and all. Yeah, but shoot your shot for sure. Garikai, coming back to you, do you think your character Tonde is under societal pressure, hence the keenness to have kids? Because we see, you know, in this season, it's a lot about that conversation between Tonde and Mati around having children.
It's a good question. Like when I look at Tonde and Tonde and Tonde. You've been away from home for too long.
Tonde,
Tsungirai. Yeah, Tsungirai. When I look at Tsungirai, you man. When I look at Tonde, thank you. I think that ultimately he has so many flaws and challenges which he is struggling with himself. There's family pressure, there's personal pressure, there's words he says, always, he keeps talking about, you're embarrassing me, he keeps referring to this whole, how long are you going to make me, or you're making a fool of me. He does have an image perception. There is a strong presence of internal battles for Tonde about how he's perceived. But I think a lot of that's got to do with, it's internal really, and the external is probably how I get to express it, or how it manifests, I guess. But it's internal, a lot of it. So it's kind of like it all collides into one world, but it's mainly internal, I feel. And then the external stuff is this noise, and the noise doesn't allow him time to process the internal. So with that added context, that's why he's so erratic, or that's why, he can be so sweet and so loving. Like there's always struggle, there's tension, and then there's also no tension. So it's a constant battle, I think, with Tonde. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does, and I like how you mentioned that the internal sort of turmoil or whatever he's going through, because of the societal noise, he can't even work that out for himself. So that's an interesting take on Tonde. Thank you.
This season, we did see it, what we deemed as fans, seeing it turn into more darker themes, obviously addressing mental health, domestic violence, sexual assault, even just the drama you face in the workplace, and we just want to ask Kix, what was it intentional that should this season be a little bit darker in that way? And if so, for each of the characters, how did you guys see that elevation in terms of your performance to convey that correctly and accurately?
Intentional. That's an interesting word, because I feel like my writing process is a little bit, how can I explain it? It's an organic process, and it's sort of like, I call it like dancing with God, in the sense of like, if you've ever done partner dancing, and you're the follower, you're supposed to, you need to move your body, you need to know how to do the basic dance moves, right? So that's understanding story structure, that's understanding doing your research, all of that stuff. You need to have the basics down. But really, I'm taking cues from the muse, the universe. I'm just listening to whatever comes into my head. So the process of writing actually was it's hard for me to actually say how long it took for me to write the script, because for a period of like 6 months, I was just I had like a notebook where I was just writing down random lines of dialogue, like something would just pop into my head. I'm like, oh, okay, let me write that down. I don't know who's going to say that. Sometimes I didn't know which character was going to say it, but I was like, okay, somehow this is going to maybe manifest into something. So anyway, so after that, I had like a huge pile of like random things that I then started to organize, into like a story structure almost like thing. So yeah, it kind of happened organically. And even I had doubts about the direction that the story was going in, because I was like, this is quite risky because it is darker than season 1. I was really concerned that, are people going to vibe with it still, because people are used to one thing and now we're taking a sharp turn, into drama. But I really just had to trust the source and follow the journey. Yeah, so intentional, I guess so. But I do think that it was a good lesson for me as well when it came down to actually producing it, because I learned that drama is harder to produce in my view, or maybe it was because I understood more of like what I was doing in terms of like the story structure and why certain characters had to come off a certain way in particular scenes for the whole thing to actually make sense, which made it, I think a little bit more challenging to actually execute in production as well as in post-production, in editing, as well as the sound design, because the sound is doing a lot of storytelling itself. So, but that's my take. I don't know if the other guys agree with that. Like, especially Ronn and Tsungi, you guys did season 1. I don't know if you guys felt a difference in terms of like the level of difficulty for your performances.
I think I remember having this conversation while recording, and you were worried about the shift. And I think it kind of does a wonderful thing like shows like Afterlife do, where you can't have the light without the dark. And a lot of great comedy shines a light on the dark. And I feel like while doing that, you bring, with that vulnerability, you bring in more people, you reach more people because you've been more vulnerable. And I feel like everything that you touched on helped someone heal. Like maybe they clicked on that podcast that day thinking like, yes, this is my like feel good, I'm gonna laugh. And yes, they will laugh and they will have fun while listening to it, but they did acknowledge something they still need to heal through in that time. So I think it was necessary. And if something's just light all the way, it's as an actor, it's not as fulfilling. Like I love when you get the nitty gritty dark roles and you have to go there and explore something you've never personally explored, but knowing that there's such a greater purpose at the end of it, which is hopefully a lot of healing for a lot of people. I loved it. It was just the meat. Looking at that script, I was like, this is a meal, a feast for an actor. So I loved it.
And Ronn, for you?
I'm actually going to disagree with both of you ladies, actually. I'm going to go against the grain. Oh, yes. There is fire here. The reason as to why I'm going to disagree is because I didn't find it darker. I actually found it very easy to go into season 2 because it flowed so damn well. Because with season 1, it is so exciting. You know, you've got 2 brand new characters. It's very exciting. We're starting a new world. You know, when you're single, meeting a new person, it is very exciting. The romance is there, figuring out who these people are. You're not going to jump into something, you know, if you go on a date with someone and you blurt out all your insecurities and stuff like that and all your worst things. I mean, maybe you do. I don't know. But for me, that's a bit of a red flag. I like to enjoy the person, you know. I like to have fun. I like to be rambunctious and wild, to do all these crazy things. And that's what I thought season 1 was, you know. We were exploring V and Luke, and it's exciting, all these new people. Season 2 is when they know each other. Then life comes into play. You know, season 2, that's when we start seeing, as you were saying, Tsungi, the nitty-gritty stuff. So I think it didn't take a darker turn. I think it just flowed really well. I think that's just what life is. You know, when you're in a long relationship with someone, you start seeing some bad things. You start seeing some good things. And again, season 2, sure, there were some bad things and good things, but to reiterate on Christine's writing, that's just how good it is. It's up and down. If it was up the entire way, we get a rehash of season 1. We probably, I don't know if we lose more viewers, if we gain more viewers. For me personally, I just keep comparing it to season 1. But for season 2, it just naturally goes into life. Yeah, I think very, very easily. So for me, this is going to sound weird, I didn't find too much difference. It was just re-entering that world. Physically, the only thing that was different was physically meeting Garikai and Sim and being in a new room and a new context and new equipment. But I don't care for that. It was just the work. It was just being in a room and connecting with these people. Rather, Christine, did we do that during COVID? Was that 2020?
Yeah, I was about to say, you guys recorded during COVID.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kudos.
Yeah.
I was in a little 4x4 kind of bedroom. No, it was
this bedroom actually.
That's it right there. I just don't remember that piece of the room.
It looks brighter today, yeah?
Yeah. Speaking of that, I think Ronn, you're talking about a natural progression. And we also, got to see real themes brought out, and we got to also get a lot of backstory in some of the relationships, like for V and Taf, and one of that was obviously PJ coming into the picture. And for you, Garikai, how was it playing PJ? And how did you find juggling the two different characters as a voice actor? And when you're seeing these two characters and you're like, okay, thanks, Christine, I'm just going all in on these, really conflicting characters. I think they bring out a lot of, emotions for the listener. How was that for you, getting to play those two roles?
Franz, I have a question. When you did get to consume the PJ scene, can you take me back to you as a consumer? For both of
the
you,
roles are reversed.
I'm ready.
Please, can you? No, the reason why I say this, right, is you guys touch on something which is quite beautiful in terms of, I love the writing in this season, because it touches on so many things that people call dark and people say they're not so light. But one of the biggest issues I have is not enough conversations happening about this. There's just not enough conversations happening about things that, and not to go entirely dark. Like, I went home in February in Zimbabwe and I was talking to people, and like, suicide rate is ridiculous at the moment. Like there's real shit going on right now, but it's just not being discussed, or it's just kind of, it's the way it is. So that's why, for me, this show, the way it does it and the way it presents these topics without throwing it in your face, but giving you enough of it, especially if you're not exposed to it. Having said that, you will all probably have a friend who has gone through a scenario of like a PJ situation, or if not a friend, a story you've heard. What was that like for you as a viewer? Then I'll go back to your question, but I just wanted to know, because I think it's one of the strongest scenes in terms of some traumatic shit we got to deal with. But what was that? What was that like, experiencing that? Like, if you could share, because that would be great, like, to just understand or to just hear from you.
Me personally, like, with our podcast, the reason we have it is to discuss things that Zimbabweans don't want to discuss. And obviously, a lot of our issues, or a lot of our topics, I should say, that we brought up this season actually aligned pretty well with what was happening on Private Affairs. So we're like, Kix, like, on some level, we're touching your brilliance.
Telepathy.
We're touching your coat, like, just because. But then it's funny, when we spoke on domestic violence, when we spoke on mental health, the reaction an episode like that would get from listeners, as opposed to talking about fashion or film, or is, and I suppose that's where the word dark starts to come in, because it's stuff we just put in the closet. So it's hidden, it's not seen, it's not talked about. And, when I was really proud to hear that scene, which sounds so odd to say, but I was proud because I was like, finally, in a way people can digest, in a way people can, you can't listen to that episode and go, like a water cooler moment. You're going to have to be like, guys, what did you think about PJ? You know what I mean? Like, there's no way you can, and also because of the way we were introduced to him, just in that moment, and then taken, like, it wasn't like you can latch on to anything else. If you're going to talk about PJ, you're going to talk about that. It's hand in hand, which speaks to the brilliance of Kix's writing as well, because it's consumed in a way that feels safe. And for a podcast that obviously probably has quite a number of Zimbabweans listening, it's in a way that can drive conversation. So it all just... for me, I was like, proud mama moment, Kix, you're doing the thing. And like,
nice.
Yeah. And like, I guess, PJ was literally, everyone has a PJ in their lives. Every female has a PJ, which is so sad to say. But at the same time, it was like, if you've not personally gone through it, you for sure have someone who's close to you who has. So it felt relatable in that way, where it was like, man, this happens way too often. And what do we do about it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I could relate so well to being young. I think they were teenagers, right? It's like the high school dance or going, and that excitement, and like you're with this person, and you don't really know how to process those feelings and the situation, because everyone's like, oh, you guys, I don't know, I could relate to being a younger me who didn't have the vocabulary or the knowledge or the ability to be like, this actually wasn't okay, just kind of like feeling stuck and kind of trying to just brush it away and deal with it. I think I could relate to it in that way. Like I know, you know someone who's gone through that. You know, you've been in situations where it was just like, that was weird, like not knowing how to deal with that.
Yeah.
And I think you did it so beautifully, because I was like, I know that position, or I know that feeling in some way, shape, or form. And you know, we in Zimbabwe, you know, the experience as a girl of being catcalled, you know, the experience as a woman, you just know that you've experienced some level of male interaction that made you uncomfortable, and having to just sit with it and just live with it. I don't know how to explain. So that
no consequence.
No consequence. So hearing that, I was like, oh snap, I get that. And unfortunately, in V's case, she'd been in a relationship with PJ, right? Like they were together. So it's like even more complex, because I know our society would be like, so what did you do for it to go like this? Or you're in a relationship, this is what it is. Or what did you expect? So it was so brilliantly done. So yeah.
That sentence alone, what did you expect? Oh,
yeah.
You've heard that so many times, right? What did you expect?
Yeah.
Oh,
if you go out,
It's
if
great.
you want to have a good time, you're asking for it. It's almost like this. So kudos to
Can I
all
just
of
say
you.
shout out to Gary and Rati for really working that scene. There were so many elements of that scene that we, like, during the process we had to kind of like break it down, you know, to get the steps right, and also accents, you know, that's another part of it. And then you know, the sound effects as well, the kissing, you know, guys, editing kissing sounds to make them sound realistic is difficult. I spend a long time
Feel for you.
editing kissing.
I made out with myself so many times.
But I will say Ronn does some pretty good fake kissing sounds.
Oh shit!
is Ronn the best?
His talent. He's
Ronn,
like, this is my party talent.
Oh man, high school was tough for me. It was just looking in the mirror. You can do this, man. You can do this. Kissing the mirror. Oh god. Oh, thank you.
I think it was a very tough scene, and it was by far the scene that took me the longest to edit.
Wow.
I think it took me 2 weeks to edit a 3-minute scene. Yeah.
Having been in the room with you, I feel like you would have made it great, because you made the room safe and your directing was really safe. So it's a difficult scene, and I haven't had to do it, but I just know that you would have made it feel less triggering in that moment.
I do need to give a shout out, like Christine was saying, to, I'm going to say V because it's a character. You know what I'm talking about. In terms of that scene, to go back to your question, I'm nothing like him. So when I saw it, I was like, I know so many people like this. That's the fucked up part of it, where I was like, well, I know who this guy is, because I've been in situations where I'm like, okay, that's just not okay. And like you said, we had a great conversation with Christine a little while back, where I was talking about like being from Zim and having multiple siblings, and I was explaining it to someone in Australia, and they were giving me the oh, how was that for you, you know, having, you know, kids from, you know, outside the marriage. I'm like, you guys have to understand, this is not an exception, this is a norm. But at the same time, it doesn't make it fine. It's one of the things that makes it complicated, why I say we do have traumatic issues that we don't know how to process, because it's just so, hey, this is everyday business. It doesn't make you special. And it's kind of, let's keep it moving. But it's like, hold on, but no one gives me a chance to explore how I feel about this. And depending on when you're told this information, you're too young to understand or to have a voice back to your parents to say, wait, I need to challenge you on that. So it's not only trauma in that sense, but you can't process it. So by the time you get to a stage, you're like, but hold on, that's not okay. Well, there's so much other shit that's thrown into us. Hence why I say these characters are living people that we know, or they're a context of us to some degree. PJ, fortunately, is not someone who I am, but like I said, I've seen this and I can identify with the person. And what made it easier to do was, like, my partner in the scene was so encouraging to be like, no, bruh, like, we're not half doing this. We're going in, like, you know, like, we're gonna make him feel uncomfortable. Like, and it was actually empowering to do that because he's not me. So there's no too far when you're playing a PJ, because, well, I can throw anything there. It's up to Christine then to say, okay, I gotta pull it back, or nah, pick it up, let's go. So it's actually fun playing a PJ in that small context because you have so much, should I say, you have so much breadth to do and to express or to explore, but at the same time, you have to make sure that it's within a safe, and it's within the intent of achieving the outcome of it. And yeah, so PJ was fun because I know I'm not him, so I'm like, okay, well, I can play this guy, but it's also empowering then because it gives me the opportunity to hear these stories, because I don't know many girls I spoke to at like that age who went through that, and I was mature enough. Like you said, everyone has that experience. I say a tool set. I say we don't have the tools at that time to be able to do the task. And now I have the tools to be like, I can have this conversation with women because I've taken enough of this, or I've seen, or I've processed enough of this as a human being and as a person to engage with you. So I don't know if that answers the whole PJ thing, but yeah.
Can I just add about the safety and why it took a long time to edit that scene is because I was also thinking about the audience, and, you know, I'm very conscious of like not wanting to, like, you know, re-traumatize people who are victims, you know, who have been victims to sexual assault. So I was really intentional about like, okay, let's get the point across, but not overdo it to the point where now you're re-traumatizing someone.
How do you decide a character's arc, Kix, just as we're starting to go into our closing, from the beginning or as each season goes? Or do you have the ending in your mind already, or where is this going for you?
I have no idea. I'm also kind of going on a journey when I'm writing as well. So there are certain things, it's sort of like, well, Shonda rhymes because she's like my virtual mentor in my mind. She talks
Shoot
about
your shot. Shoot your shot.
She talks about like characters are like really good friends, but you know, obviously you don't know everything about a really good friend, and with time you get to know more about them. So it's kind of like that process. In season 1 there were certain things that I knew, so obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but I was planting certain things to then pick up in season 2. So I knew Mati didn't want to have a baby, she just didn't know it yet, you know. I knew certain things about Taf as well, and his backstory and his relationship with V that wasn't revealed in season 1. Season 1 I didn't even have an ending, and I agonized about that for a very long time because it was like, I think it was like 2 weeks until production and I didn't have an ending. So that was pressure. And then season 2 I had an idea of an ending. I wasn't sure if V and Luke well, I thought V and Luke weren't going to make it to Zim, but I wasn't sure. So it became a task of like, okay, let's throw things at them and write it and, you know, see if the ending makes sense by the time we get to it. So yeah, so I don't really know.
Okay, that's the best answer that you just said. You don't know where it's gonna go.
Yeah.
Why do you
Yeah,
think
it was
that's the
cool
best
hearing
answer?
you talk about you dance with God. I was like, wow, I had to dig into your mind.
That's excellence right there.
No, but Ron, why do
really
you
is.
say that's the best answer? Why do you think that?
Well, where are you going to be in the year 2035, August the 6th? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
like
it's true.
Who knows what the future is to hold? And that's exactly what this show is. It's just life. It's just really just good writing and life. And it's like, there are a lot of shows, like there is a show in particular, it's called Breaking Bad, that little show. I think they found the beginning and they found the end. I think. I can't remember if that's true, but I think they already had the end, and then they filled all the middle pieces, which is fine. And the show became a huge successful hit, and it was wonderful. But as you were saying, Ruby, like to get into the mind of an actor or an artist, it's different for every single person, and there is no right or wrong answer. Again, it sounds corny and cliche, but like I find like math, science, kind of there's always like one kind of
answer.
Definitive answer.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It feels it.
But with arts, there's no rules. That's the exciting thing. There's literally no rules. And with Christine, you know, it's like, I love that answer, you having no idea, because that's also so exciting.
Mm.
And that makes me more excited for season 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, keep them coming. Keep them coming. Keep them coming.
I have said I am looking forward to collaborate. I'm looking forward to seeing things on other platforms, TV. I'm just putting it out there. I'm just gonna release it. You know.
Yeah. What is next, Kix?
Yeah,
exactly.
Blu-ray, 4K, cinematic release. We got this. You know, coming out.
I'm claiming it. Yeah.
People are auditioning right here, right now.
What is next?
Yeah.
Well, I take it, you know, I'm taking it one step at a time. So next thing is season 3, raising funds for season 3. You know, obviously I want to pay all these guys, you know, great talent. I want to be able to pay people, you know, so raising funds for a project like this does take quite some time. And audio drama, fiction, immersive is one of the most expensive types of podcasts to make, which is why you don't hear a lot of them unless they're coming from other, like, you know, production studios that have a lot of money to put into it. So as an independent production, that is one of the biggest hurdles to cross. So but I'm, you know, I have faith, you know, blind faith that we'll get there. Based on what, I don't know, but I guess that's what faith is all about, right? Yeah. But I do want to say a big shout out to the Australia Council for the Arts, Creative Victoria, the Scallon Foundation, the Jesse Cox Audio Fellowship, all the listeners who contributed to season 1 and season 2, because yeah, all of that really does make a huge difference in being able to create something of the quality that it is. And I think all the performances, you know, Jerry in the background doing the sound, I think everyone did such a great job. So yeah, season 3 coming up with the story, raising funds for it. If you want to support, any listeners who are listening to this right now, if you want to support, you can donate at privateaffairspod.com, or you can also buy some merch. Same place, privateaffairspod.com.
Awesome. Yeah. And I just wanted to say, you've mentioned dancing with God, so I don't think he's not going to listen. You're in his ear already, if that makes sense. So I really, that's just me being like, you know, you're already working within that realm. Before we go,
God is in it. I do want to say, can I just address, like, you know, people hinting at TV and stuff? I don't want to act like I don't hear it. You know, I
know, right? I'm like,
she's just like, whatever, girl, you delusional. Keep it moving.
No, I mean, I see the comments all the time. Yeah, let's say, like, yeah, I am looking at trying to also have conversations around that, but you know, you guys know, you've been in the industry, some things take off, some things don't, so we'll see where it goes. But no matter what happens, season 3 is what I'm striving to make. Like, I need to get the story out, so it's going to come out one way or another.
So there is a story. We just got to the 411. The story is already in
season
there.
3. In season 3, we don't have to wait. It's, you know, like Netflix.
Yes.
Season 3 is
it's not ready. It's not.
No, but the story is there. But you know, so we are ready. We look forward to it.
Can I ask one question quickly?
Sure.
When you guys were listening, when I read this script, I saw this Bluetooth little situation. And I was like, nah, fam, this Bluetooth. I was like, this Bluetooth ain't just here for bullshit. I'm like, wow, we've been talking about freaking Seaton. So I just want to know, when you guys were listening as the audience, when the Bluetooth scene came up, did you kind of think, interesting? What? Yeah, how was that for you? Because as soon as I read it, I was like, yo, fam, this Bluetooth business. What was that for you guys? Like when you heard it?
Please remind me the Bluetooth scene. Is this when Taf was in the car?
Forget me.
I don't know.
So there you go. There's the answer. There you go.
Let me tell you the 411. Now Phoebe going to take a shower, and then Luke is like, okay, play music, and then V's like playing the voice note for the 1,000th time because we know she's been playing that voice note since it, and then it goes silence, and then you just in the living room.
Can we have your voice in the recap of every episode?
That sound just came in it.
Oh, that's what you mean by Bluetooth. Okay, understood. Girl. Okay, I'm with you. My bad. I need to catch up.
Because like when the script was there, right, and I'm reading it, and the first piece happens like with the Bluetooth scene, like, oh, what's going on with my Bluetooth? I was like, that Bluetooth bullshit is coming back to bite someone. I'm like, that bullshit right there, that is not, it's too random just to appear. Like that's
yeah.
Like, no, fam. Mm-mm.
When I listen, well, I don't know, Amanda, if you want to go first.
No, you go.
When that scene, I was like, Sister's had this thing on repeat, and now she's trying to be like, just my Bluetooth number one. And I think it was, for me, I was like, what is she trying to discover or understand from listening to this voice note over and over again? Like she's running and she's listening to Taf's voice. I'm like, firstly, when I run, I need me some music. I don't be listening to random voicemails from nobody. So let's start there. And then, so I'm like, what is she trying to, and is it reparations for what Luke did? Like she's trying to be like, oh, but I've got my own, something there. Do you understand? Like my brain was like, maybe that was her thought process. And then, then the scene, I mean, I completely understand why Luke would have questions, because I'm like, but why are you listening to this? And why?
But Luke let that one go so easy. It's just like,
I would have been like, ma'am, this means you've been listening to it.
I want to play to Zimbabwe with your ass. I'll be like,
Jack, nope. That's how I took it. I don't know if it answers your question. I just had many
It's so good just to see you guys so animated, because like I got so many friends who are talking to me about their experiences, and Christine told me about the bedroom scene, the fight that I have with Tsungi.
Yeah.
And so many people have been calling me to be like, dude, when that shit went down, man, because you're picking a side. You're with her or you're with me. Like it's clear divisions here. Like, are you team, hey, I'm not ready, or are you team, you taking me for a fool? What the fuck, yo? So it's interesting. It's good to see when you guys,
I will say Kix's writing and you guys' performances evoke things in us as listeners. Yeah. And I don't know if you guys need feedback or not, but like really hats off to you, because we obviously embody these people as if we're like, and like Kix has always said TV for your ears. And I think that's always stayed with me, because I'm like, I'm picturing it. I'm like, I'm there with them and what's going on. And that just speaks to your talent. All of you. So flowers, like the biggest bouquet of flowers to you. And that's why we want to do this podcast episode with you as well, just to also take a moment to acknowledge all the hard work that's gone into this. It's not, being a creative is not an easy feat. We're talking about maths and everything as an answer, but there's also an uncertainty that can come with creativity as well. But when you guys hit the nail on the head with this, it's just take a moment to also pat yourselves on the back. We are on this ride with you, and we are very, very happy for all the content that we're getting. Trust me, I can listen back to season 1 over and over again. And that also speaks, because as consumers right now, we consume and we discard. So for us to be able to still go back and listen and still enjoy it as if I've never heard it, and still recommend it and still share it, and still speaks to the talent that you guys deserve to get all the flowers. So
agreed. I be in the shower and I'm like, wait, what? Hold, pause. And like, I'll never forget this one day. I think I was in the shower and listening, and my husband was like, what's going on? Because I'll be like commenting, I'm like, oh no, V, like you can't help it. Like I literally feel like I'm like, oh nah, girl, my tea on, like literally. Like,
yeah, that'd be me too, Rumbi. That'd be me too.
Like, no, he didn't.
When your husband starts hearing 4 voices come from the shower, then it's like,
I know, right? And the kissing scenes as well.
And the moaning.
Yes,
yeah. A listener sent through something. The DMs, people DM a lot. They don't like to share publicly, but this listener said something really funny. Yeah, she said, that season finale made me stop in my tracks in the middle of Walmart. OMG.
American audience. Cool.
Yeah.
In Walmart.
Yeah.
It's so, I know it's like, it's worldwide, but you just think our voices are in someone's ears in America. Like, what?
Exactly. Exactly. Why do you guys think that's so? Why do you think everyone's like latched onto this? Well, how does it read back to you guys? Why do you think it's such an important story to tell?
It's Christine's beautiful mind, honestly. It's just the way you did it. Like when we get the scripts, I don't know about you guys, but I read it and I'm like, what's gonna happen? Like I'm a fan while reading it, and then I'm like, okay.
Yeah, as an actor, when you're reading it for the first time, I guess the first people that get to see it are the actors, right? So when we're reading it, it's just like reading a good book. It's the same thing. Formatted differently.
Well, when I read it, I was disappointed because I'm the only one who doesn't have sex, just so it clears. So you guys want to know why Tonde's salty. Because everybody else is having a fucking good time but Tonde. So just so it's fucking clear. But no, to be serious, you asked a good question, and I think it goes back to the point I said before. I think we all identify with the characters because of things that we've all been through. Because our audience is global. Like everyone who listens to this would probably be part of the diaspora family who will recommend it. And then what it then does is it allows other people to learn and share about cultural differences or context they're not aware of. So I think we all identify with someone or everyone within this, and that's the beautiful work of the creativity of the content.
Even like to read it being Shonglish, like it's like someone in a Spanish community will listen to it and think about how they incorporate their language into like everyday language and their jokes and slang too.
Yeah. I actually got another listener send in a note about the language, and they said, "Oh, I love that you put the language in there. It makes it feel real." So I think people like listening to it. Even the audience is actually quite diverse. It's not just Black people. It's not just Zimbabweans. It really is. When I look at the analytics, it really is across the world, mostly women, but definitely people of all different cultures and backgrounds listen to it. And I think it's because it's human stories. You know what I mean? I think there's a level of relatability, even if you're not from the specific background. I think what I try to do is write things that are emotionally true. So I think people can tap into that.
It's a superpower of the characters, actually. Last thing I'll say, because you asked me about playing PJ and Tonde. If you notice the difference of Tonde and PJ, Tonde speaks more Shona, specifically to being allowed to have that, which is great.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Before we wrap up and close, we just, I guess, would ask you any parting words for anyone aspiring to be within the creative industry, a voice actor, an actor, right? Just any last words. We just go around, and if you can share anything that you would like to share with our audiences who are like, you know what, I did want to do that XYZ and I kind of put it on the back burner, and there's no space or time, or I'm too old, or I'm too, all these things that we tell ourselves to justify why we can or cannot do something. So maybe if we just go around, I'd like to start maybe with Ronn, Gary, hey, look at me just calling you guys like I know you.
No, you good.
I've been listening to these people. I know everybody now.
I'm just like casually.
Good.
I'm like,
you good.
And Tsungi and then Christine to round us off. So Ronn.
where to start? Well, Christine, where did you start? What's behind you?
The
Right?
room.
The bedroom.
In the room.
Yeah.
Literally where to start. I know it
got
sounds, yeah, but it's so funny. We all have iPhones. We all have microphones. It sounds hard, but all of ideas are right here. You know, if you have an idea, go for it. Seriously, right? It may not come today. Have a little book, as Christine said. Have a little book and just write down little things every day. Don't have expectations. After 6 months, if you do that every day, if you skip out on some weeks of that, your book will be full and you'll have all this amazing, beautiful information, and then goes to the next step. So don't have expectations of, oh, I want to do this now. I want to do this then. I want to do this. It's all very baby steps. Enjoy the process, you know, have fun. A lot of people forget to have fun. You know, I think we all have it in us. Every single human on this planet has art in them. We all have a favorite movie.
Yeah.
You know, art is what, from the very beginning of when humans first existed, you know, art is there. It's around us, everything. So whether it be a short film, whether it be writing, whether it be music, start. You know, it is possible. It's not impossible. It is possible. And I've been on so many projects where I was on a TV show where none of the actors got paid. We did it because we enjoyed it, and that was green. That was very similar to Private Affairs. It was bare bones, and then it got Netflix for 3 seasons, right? So it's like, just start. It sounds weird, but just start and have fun. And there are so many like-minded people in this world. There's 8 billion people on this planet, you know? Like, just write something, just have fun, enjoy. Because Christine really like sparked that fire in my belly for more voice acting, you know, and it's powerful. Art will affect you, and it'll just enlighten so many other people, you know, and that's the beauty of art. It's just making people happy and connect. And I think just start by just writing some stuff, anything, and go do it.
Thank you so much. Garikai?
Thank you. It's so nice to hear someone say my name correctly. It's great. Love
it.
I'm not gonna lie to you. They'll be like, no, and like seriously, because I'm in Australia, like, so they can't roll their R's. They can't go. So when someone says Garikai, I'm like, man, that's it right there. Like, you know, so calm down, Ron. Behave yourself, Ron.
And it's so funny because Gary and I are in the same area too. Like, it's so we're the only Black people probably in the
real.
They're around 3 suburbs.
Like my wife's always like, oh, people said they saw you, and I'm like, yeah, because I'm the Black dude with dreadlocks. This is like, it's not like demographics wise. Come on, bro. They ain't a whole bunch of us out here, bro. Like, come on, let's be serious here. But to answer you, what I would say is, I have a different take, which is similar in the fact that just love the art and understand why you're in the art. So as I said to you guys before, I stopped acting for about 3 years because I got really frustrated because I was too immature to understand the business side of it. So I've been doing acting for a while. There's some really great projects, done like, you know, great work and been on some really cool things. And you're always doubting yourself and questioning as a creative. That always comes with the territory. But then when you remember why you do it, like one of the things that I had to mature about was getting put on all these big projects, and you start thinking, oh, if I get booked on that, it's going to be like this. And because I was immature, I didn't understand that this is an art. This is a game that's about creativity, and it's all about, you know, time and sharing and, you know, what you invest in it. And then when I left, I went into this space where I was exploring things, just living my life. And I realized art is about creativity. Creativity is about your interpretation of what you want to give or how you want to share with the world. It has no commercial association with it. If you are lucky to be in a project which then has commercials, or should I say financials associated with it, then that's work. That's not art. So what I would recommend is know the difference between work and art. If you want to do this, and if you want to keep in love with the arts, don't get in this for the bag. Don't get in this for the fame and the success, because you could just go do reality TV. Be a creative, like explore that. You have the power. You have, as Ron said, we all have stories. There's 8 billion of us. so many of us connect. That's why music is great. A musician will write a song and some people are like, oh my God, I thought he was talking to me. Because we're all connected. So follow the art, be true to that. And I promise you, it'll be so much more fruitful. I'm having so much more fun with this because when I joined this, I said this to Christine, I don't care how much you're paying. I just want to be part of the project because it's just great. Fall in love with that, find that, you'll be free. And you won't look at it as a business. That's what I think anyway.
Yeah, well said.
Bars. Thank you.
I kind of, to build on what you just said, Gary, I feel like nurture the voice in your head that asks, why not you? And what if it goes well? What if I have so much fun? What if I make new friends? What if I grow? What if I learn something? Like, nurture the what if of the good, the positive side, instead of what if I'm to this or to that? Like, try and strengthen that voice a bit more in your head, and you'll find your mind taking you to more beautiful places because you put yourself out there. You went to that random acting class or that workshop and you made a friend. And I feel like a beautiful part of acting is sometimes you get a gig not for the job itself. Sometimes you meet a best friend in a gig and you never know why you're being led to a part. So if you have a strong feeling that you want to get more creative and do acting or writing or whatever it is, put yourself out there, because it might be the universe like guiding you to a circle that's going to nourish your mind and make you grow as a person. And if I had a little practical one, I would say read the book The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. That one helps you release any rules or boxes in your head that you have around your creativity, and just it asks you to take yourself out on an artist date every week where you go to a bookstore, you go to a class, and I think that might be a nice gentle way of like dipping your toe into creativity.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Jeez. Okay. Now I need to find something to say.
We took them all.
Yeah, you guys did. I think I'll just add. It's never too late to start. Ava DuVernay started when she was 33. You know, so and especially these days, there's so many resources where you can learn, particularly for creative art stuff. You can learn so much. YouTube University, proud graduate of YouTube University. Yeah, I think, yeah, it's never too late. And also, I would also just say, make calculated risks. You know, I'm all about taking risks, but also calculate your risks. I had a friend tell me that they quit their job after listening to the podcast. I was like, hey, hold up. I did not say quit your job.
What have you done, Christine? What have you done?
Quitting at least. Quiet quitting at least.
Yeah, no, I don't know if they had decided to quit anyway before, and this was just like, you know how people look for signs of confirmation.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Christine, can I sleep in your couch?
Moving in.
Yeah, so you know, a lot of times we try to I think there are ways of pursuing your passion but also being sensible. You know, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. This has been food for the soul, and you know, just reinforced why we do this, why we have this podcast, and why we share these stories. Because A, as Amanda said, to give you flowers, which are so well deserved, and B, because these stories are inspiring. We hope to inspire any of our listeners, and you know, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us, for sharing so much of yourselves, for creating this world where we feel we live in. I feel like I know V, I'm gonna go see her this next week for brunch. Like, you know, like you just feel like you that connection and for doing something so amazing. And before we round up, we just like to give you an opportunity to share where people can find you if you want to be found on the socials, and also, of course, for private affairs.
But I want to give you guys a shout out. I will be doing a podcast, which is similar to what you guys do. It's pretty much in the frame of guy who grew up in Zimbabwe, went to private school, but, you know, is connected very much to the social economic demographic from the wealthiest to the poorest, and the challenges we see and the conversations from a male's perspective, I think we're not having. I was listening to your, I think it was the hierarchy one. You guys were playing, you were talking about gender roles, and there was something beautiful you said where you, it's interesting as a woman because you got to be everything for everyone except yourself at the same time. And I was like, God damn, that shit right there, huh? And I was, so something very similar to what you guys are doing is quite inspiring. But at the moment, I'll just be taking a chill, working with Christine, and then we'll get back to it.
Thanks for listening, by the way. That's really lovely.
You want to do your research, bruh?
It's just my name, so Tsungirai Wachenuka. But yeah, I don't post enough on there, but I will. And if anyone has any acting questions, I can help as much as I can. But I feel like your journey is your journey. It's not going to be the same as anyone's.
100%.
And you can find Private Affairs on Instagram at Private Affairs Pod, Facebook as well, and Twitter at Private Affairs P.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Amanda, any last words before we part?
No, we've enjoyed this as fans. We obviously really wanted to get some behind the scenes tea, and it just feels nice to hear you guys speak on the project, and we can't wait for more.
Yeah. Well
Can
done.
I ask one quick question?
Yes.
Sure.
I'm new to podcasts. I watch mainly film, a lot of movies, TV show I dabble in, but I love movies. But through podcasts, obviously Private Affairs, and I've been listening in some other things. But what I like about some TV shows, the ones that come out once a week, I really love them because the episodes go for 20 minutes, 40 minutes, and you have that entire week to think about it. How do you listen to podcasts? Do you binge it, or do you go one episode a day or one episode a week? How do you?
It depends on the
type of podcasts. Oh,
yeah, girl. I'm new to podcasts.
So like something like Private Affairs, which is a story, right? Like it's literally like a TV show. So I'm like, what's happening today? Okay.
When as soon as it downloads, I'm like, yes.
And mine's on automatic download. So
yes.
So there's some, and then other podcasts that, and I think our podcast, Amanda, correct me if I'm wrong, is really something you need to chew on a little bit. So I find when I make time or when I have time, so it's if I'm cooking, like I don't think I could listen to Private Affairs and be chopping because it'd be like, see, okay, you know, it's like, so I like to listen when I'm doing things, you know, that don't require my brain. And then it's literally as I have the time for it and I can chew on it, and also what I'm feeling, like do I want something like for entertainment relief, or do I want something to like learn something, or just depends. That's me.
Yeah, because if it's a current affairs podcast, you have to probably listen to it as soon as it drops because they're probably going to be talking about it. But if it's like one like ours where you're just talking about topics where you can pick which topic you even want to listen to, what kind of mood you're in, then that, so it does depend. Similar to a movie.
Thank you again, everybody, for listening to this really, really special bonus episode, Layered Affairs. As always, let us know your thoughts. We're on Instagram, it's Layered. We're on Twitter, it's Layered Pod. You can email us, it's layeredpod@gmail.com. Once again, thank you to the cast, creators of Private Affairs Podcast. Be sure to listen. If you haven't already, you don't know what you're missing. We'll leave all the information in the show notes, as well as how you can support them. And we'll see you when we see you guys. Bye.
Bye.